have been seeing these berry aura nails, purple aura nails all over the place this fall, and I wanted to see if I could recreate it with just using dip powders and dip liquids. What's up, nail crew? It's Nicole, your fellow nail obsessed DIYer. That's what we're gonna do today. We are gonna do aura nails with only dip powders and dip liquids. Now, in the past, I've done this, but I always used a darker color in the middle and it worked great because I used a black. Well, this like kind of reverse aura where you use a lighter color in the middle, I couldn't quite get it to work when just using dip powders and dip liquids, but I had an idea of how to make it work. And I'm going to show you, so make sure you stay tuned. We're using these gorgeous colors from OG Dip Powder. I wasn't sure what like pink was gonna work, so I grabbed a couple of them. The base of the mani I'm doing with the color You Can't Be Worse Than the Guys I Do Know. It's this stunning purplish color that has all these shifts to it, and I thought, oh my gosh, if I do some kind of pink with it, it is gonna look so good. So the two pinks that I grabbed were, one's called Pink on Wednesdays and the other one's called Give Me All the Pinks. Give Me All the Pinks is a little bit darker, so I wasn't sure like which one was going to fit better. What I started off by doing was doing 2 dips of the purple. And I have builder gel down on my natural nails. I pretty much always have builder gel or rubber base down on my natural nails. So when I do my dips, I only need to do two of the dip color, and then I typically just do one of the clear. Now it's going to be a little bit different for this one, but you'll see why. If you don't do rubber base or builder gel as your base of your nails, you do want to build an apex, and if you don't want to use rubber base or builder gel, you can use clear dip powder. If you can't use gels, using clear dip powder works great to build an apex as well. Building an apex just means that you are building up the highest point of your nails. So you do 1 dip of clear about halfway down your nail, almost like a little landing strip. Then your second dip would be a little bit further, about 3/4 the way down your nail and covering a little more, so that then your third and fourth dips would be the full dip of your entire nail. And then the fifth would be clear. So I want to make sure, since I'm actually going to add an extra step, I want to make sure that I kept my nails as thin as possible. So I kept my layers really thin. What that means is you want to apply your dip base really thinly. So before I even pull it out of the bottle, I like to try to get off as much as I possibly can and just have enough that I'm covering my nail. Now, I know that sounds easier said than done. Like if you're new and you're like, well, what the heck? I thought I was doing it thin, but it ends up globbing everywhere. That's going to be something that takes some time to get used to. One of the things that really helped me was that if I take the dip base brush and before I even pull it out of the bottle, I wipe off one side of the liquid on the inside before I even pull it out, that at least ensures that you know you're not putting a ton of dip base all over your nails. That is step one to keeping your layers thin. And since I was doing 2 layers of this color, I really wanted to make sure that I kept my layers thin. So I did the pour over method for both layers. I really like to do the pour over method anytime I'm using a shimmer or a solid dip powder. That really helps me to keep my layers thin as well. For me, when I dip my nail straight into the dip cut jar, it just ends up getting a little bit thick and clumpy. So pouring it over helps me really to get that nice, smooth, thin layer that I want. It's better to do a higher number of thin layers than a lower number of thick layers. I was so excited, like as this color was going on. I've been wanting to do this mani for so long, but life has been lifing majorly. If you haven't watched any of my other videos, I was previously really sick earlier this year. Basically almost got poisoned by medication. Luckily had stopped that. It was Prozac. Had I stayed on any longer, I probably would have had a seizure and not been here anymore. But luckily I fought for myself really hard. I knew something was wrong. So now that I'm starting to slowly feel better, I'm like trying all the things I've been wanting to try for a while. I don't know about how all of you feel, but it really feels like life is lifing for a lot of people right now. I don't know what the heck is going on, but we're just gonna keep trucking along. And you know what? Doing our pretty nails because that makes me feel good. Make sure in between each layer that you brush off the excess powder once it's dry and brush it off really, really well. That's going to help keep your layers thin as well. So now we're going to go in and work on our aura. And I thought, what if I do a really thin layer of clear dip powder, just pour it over once, keep my dip base really thin, and then scrub the pink into the clear. Like maybe that will stay a lot better. So I started off, I did that. You saw me, I just poured the clear over, and then I grabbed the pink on Wednesdays first to try. And I started scrubbing it in with like a bigger ombre brush. Wasn't really too sure like which would work best, using a fluffier ombre brush or a little bit thinner of just like a regular eyeshadow brush. I grabbed the Give Me All the Pinks to see how that would look as well. The combination of the two really didn't make that big of a change in the color. So I thought, okay, like we'll do this for the first one. Then I'm going to go and probably just use pink on Wednesdays for the other color, for the other nails. I like to try my designs on my thumbnail because if you haven't watched any of my videos, then you wouldn't know that I'm not really particular about how like a mani looks. So I get an idea in my head and then I end up just going for it. It is really rare that I will try something out on either like a full cover tip or some kind of swatch stick. I am just the type of person who is not super particular about my nails, right? Like funny because I love to do them all the time. I think that's part of why is because like there's just too many things going on in life and I do my nails so often that if I make a mistake and like something doesn't turn out, I'm like, eh, I'll try again next time, or this mani will stay on for a couple days, maybe it'll stay on for a week, and I'll just kind of go with it. I decided to top it with clear dip powder and fully activate it so I could really focus on doing the next nails. So on my pointer finger, I went in really carefully trying to keep my dip base clear. And one thing that I did with it was make sure that I traced around my cuticles so that there wouldn't be any clear stuck on it. And I brushed off the excess clear. I did not do that with the thumbnail. And I noticed like it kind of ended up being a little bit like weird shaped. I don't know, it was a little bit bumpy. I think because I tried scrubbing the pink in too soon. I should have waited till it dried and brushed it off before I scrubbed the pink in. I felt like the color payout would have been better right off the bat with pink on Wednesdays. So I tried doing that with my pointer finger and it worked so much better. Like you can see that pink on Wednesdays is a lighter pink. It's not like super light, but it's not, super dark or anything. And it was really showing up well on my pointer. I basically just would dunk my brush into the powder and then rub it in right around the center to create that aura. One thing that I did differently, I also did differently on my pointer finger, was I started brushing off excess in between, like every time I'd scrub a little bit more pink on. This way I was able to see how pink it was without it being like too pink or not pink enough. I definitely, like looking back at this, I probably would have gone pinker in the middle had I realized like exactly how I wanted it to look. This is my first time trying, this way of scrubbing the middle aura color onto the clear. So I'm definitely trying it again. I'm going to go a little bit more intense with the color in the middle, just so that once I put clear dip powder on, it still really pops. And then I went through the rest of my nails and added the clear dip powder because I knew that I wanted it to dry and then brush off the excess clear before I went and I scrubbed any of the pink in. And that was what was so great about this, is that you can apply your clear dip powder and then go and scrub it in once it's dry, which is really nice. You're not like waiting for, oh my gosh, like, am I doing the timing right, that I'm tapping the brush in the right place? When I do like regular baby boomer or ombre type nails of two colors, where it's like a vertical ombre or a horizontal ombre, I do a combination of tap and then scrub. But for this one, all I had to do was scrub, and that's what was so great about it. It was really easy to just scrub this in the center. And so many people were asking me like, "Oh my gosh, how did you do this? How was it, so easy?" And I post my nails first on Facebook groups before I go in and do my YouTube videos just because of timing. Like I work with different brands And I like to post my nails like right away on Facebook. So when they're coming through on my YouTube videos, a bunch of people have already seen it and are like waiting for the videos, like, hey, I can't, I want to learn about this or I want to learn about that. And I like to often ask what they want to see, what they need help with, what videos that they really, really want to see done. So if there's ever a video or some kind of skill or something that you really want to learn, or you want me to find an easy way to do, or you want me to find like a non-gel way to do, since I do a lot of mayonnaise without gel and I try to give everybody different options that don't involve gel, just drop me a comment. I welcome any suggestions, any questions that you have that you want to learn. Something I noticed when I was doing these ombres, this Aura Mani, was that if I went in first with the bigger, fuller ombre brush and then went in with the thinner little eyeshadow brush actually that I was using, I got a really good aura. So the big ombre brush was great for that outer aura ring. And then to get that really concentrated color, like right in the center, using a smaller eyeshadow brush was a really great option. I like to always have a bunch of eyeshadow brushes on top of my normal ombre brush for like doing little things. I feel like I end up using the smaller eyeshadow brushes, in different techniques that I do. So I always like to have at least a couple on hand and clean. And this worked out really well. So my hands are actually really big. Even if you can't tell in the videos, I have huge hands, always have. So if you might find that using a bigger ombre brush is a little bit too big on your nails, you might find that you just have to use like a smaller fluffy ombre brush or a smaller fluffy eyeshadow brush, and then use an even smaller eyeshadow brush to really get that center aura going to be a little bit darker. If you have small hands, the only finger that it was really an issue for me was my pinky, since that one is small compared to my other fingers that are gigantic. Just for reference, if you don't think my hands are big, and when I use full cover tips, I actually need a size 000 from Apres. That is the only full cover tip that fits my humongous thumbs, are the 000s from them. So that's like gives you an idea of how big my nails actually are. When I was totally done and happy with how the ombre aura looked, then I went through and I added clear on top of all my nails, really poured it over well to make sure that it was totally soaked in before I brushed off the excess and added the activator. So what I like to make sure that I do when I'm doing ombres is really make sure that that clear dip powder layer, your last layer, fully encapsulates your ombre, or in this case, the aura. Because what I've had happen before when I didn't put enough clear dip powder down was that I kind of buffed or filed through my aura or ombre. And after you've done all this work to get your nails to look how you want, you definitely don't want to do that. I mean, I definitely don't. So I make sure that I put a nice amount of clear on. I basically, even though I keep my dip base thin, I keep pouring over the clear powder until it is totally soaked in. Then brush off the excess, activate it, and your nails are ready to be buffed, shaped, and filed when you get tap on them and it makes like a hard tapping sound versus kind of like a squishy noise. So I go through with my flexible file first. It's pretty much like a giant hand file, but it's a buffing block. I get those from OG, and then I go around, fix up my shaping anywhere that looks a little bit off, looks a little bit, too thick from applying dip, because dip adds a little bit of bulk. Even when you're applying your dip layers really thinly, you're going to get a little bit of extra bulk, which is why I like to go in with my buffing block or my flexible file and, buff it down nice and smooth. And then my trick to getting beautiful cuticle lines that I do not keep secret, because there is no gatekeeping here. I do not believe in that. I go around my cuticles with some kind of nail drill bit to really get that nice, clean, beautiful, like quote unquote perfect, if there's such a thing, cuticle line that everybody is aiming for. I have been sick lately, not what I was sick with earlier this year, but I've been sick again. So, thank you, children, for bringing all the germs home. So I know that my application's a little bit sloppy and I'm going to be extra rough. So I've been using a different bit around my cuticles to make sure that I don't cut them up. And everything that I use, I link in the comments. This way, you know exactly what I'm using and you don't have to wonder. And if there's ever something that I forgot to put in the description. Just make sure that you drop a comment and say, hey, like, what's this? Because I'm happy to answer, give you all the details about everything that I used. Once they go around my cuticles with that e-file bit, then I like to go back through one more time with the flexible file just to make sure the sides of my nails are sloping down nicely towards, my skin so that there's not like any weird ridges or anything. This is my favorite part of the mani when you're doing your top coating and you actually get to see how your mani is coming out. You get to see like all the fruit of your labor, or whatever that expression is, all your hard work's coming, coming to fruition. Whatever dip liquids that you're using, make sure that you follow their instructions. I've seen so many people struggle with dip top coating, dip liquids, and if you're not following the instructions of the ones that you have, most likely your timing could be off. Yeah, there are going to be some brands that have a similar timing, but for the most part, they all have a little bit of nuances or, timing issues that don't work the same. So these are from OG Dip Powder, and the timing is very specific. So I always make sure that I follow OG's timing so that I get the shiniest possible top coat that I can. Now that you know how to do easy aura nails, come check out this next video and we'll do a basic ombre. Thanks for joining me today, nail crew.